Hi everyone, hope you're good. I would like to welcome you in this part. This kind of the tutorial that are going to help you to learn and understand how you can implement MVC on the web technology. We're just trying to build a certain website, a web app. That means if we need to create a web app, there's something the best way you can do. You can use so that it's going to help you to implement the web app as quick as you can. So some of them we have different tools that can help us to learn the things to be able to excel it. Like for example, we do have different tools. Like we have if before the things to come. To know this one, you need to learn actually what's going to require you to learn. What do we need for the website? So that means for the website not to work, we need a certain web browser or a certain user who wish to access certain data that's a certain way that are hosted or deployed a certain way on a given server, and then should be able to communicate through what you call a certain protocol. There must be a certain rules and regulations that make an end user to communicate with a server. That means if the user need to access certain data that are saved a certain way else, that means there's certain protocol or way that need to be communication between them. That's why you come up with what we call hypertext transfer protocol. That is what you call HTTP. That means we need an HTTP so that either the browser, the end user by using a certain web browser, either Google Chrome browser for like Mozilla, should be able to communicate or to contact a certain server to access certain information by browsing or searching through a search engine or a Google engine, depends on the web browser you're just using. And then it's going to, in order the things to be allocated a certain way on the server, it has its unique identifier. That's what you call URL, Uniform Resource Locator. That means it is a unique a file or a certain things that are being set at certain deployed a certain on server should have its unique identifier on the server, so that we will be able to exactly retrieve that kind of the file. So that thing you need to know. The first thing you need to know, what do you mean HTTP? That's what you call hypertext transfer protocol. It helps us to it gives us a way, or it provides the means of the web browser to communicate with the server. So if we need to access a certain a file from the server or web page that are being hosted certain web server, like we have the server we're going to use Tomcat, you can have Glassfish, you can have GBoss, and so those are different server that can be helpful to be hosted. So that means in order the things to be able to be accessed through the kind of the protocol, it needs what you call identify. It has to identify what you call URL. That's what you call Uniform Resource Locator. So this kind of the uniform resource locator, that means it has something that's able to help us to locate that kind of the file. Okay, so anything else. So this is something you need to know. So by now on, we're going to try, because we just before we have we have front-end languages that can happen. Of course, a certain user will be able to view certain, the graphic user interface. Under the graphic interface, we can have what you call HTML. Those are the language. You can have JS, JavaScript. So you can have CSS, that is cascading style sheet. It helps us to make something looks beautiful. Also, we have JavaScript. It helps us to add some functionality on end user. So HTML, it is a hypertext markup language. It is a markup language. It holds different tags. It's like a given text, but it has been added some features on it, and then it uses those kind of the markup language. Those are the tags that identify it to be leaded or by the engine, JavaScript engine of the web browser and so on. So these some of them the front-end language we can have. Also on the back-end side, though the end user doesn't know actually what's going on behind the scene, and then behind the scene we can have some language. We can have Java, we can have PHP, we can have Django, Python. So those and many more. Those things on back-end side. Under the Java, we have different framework that can be helpful to implement these things. So under the Java, for Java, we can have on the Java, we can have JSP, we can have JSF. JSF is a framework. We can have Spring framework and many more. Also under the PHP, you can have what you call a Laravel. Those are the things you can know. Let me do it this way. So under the Java, we can have this kind of the JSP. Can have Laravel. It is a framework for the PHP. Also on the Python, you can have Django. Also those are the framework and so on. Okay, we can have Django. If you just familiar with these guys, you can go on and do implementation many more. So those are the best things you can learn and then work. But for within the thing we're going to work on here, so for us, we're going to have work on the JSF. There's a certain video that being covering the JSP file. That means it is a way where the server can be able to communicate by using different formats and so on. This kind of the JSP, it is somehow poor because it requires you to do everything you need. I mean, you are going to work each and everything. But JSF is a framework. Of course, JSF MVC is a framework that is going to help us. Some tools that has been implemented by some of the to be used or to be for us for our safety, and then I mean we can make us lazy somehow, because this kind of the framework it makes a good good impact through the programming and so on. So it makes life easier somehow, because we should be able to configure some WebSocket, configure some database and so on. But now we have some framework like Hibernate. Those are different framework. We have Bootstrap. So it helps you to make things easier so that you go ahead and then enjoy programming. So here we go. So now for this one, we just talked about the JSP and so on. Now this video, we're going to talk about what do we mean JSF. So JSF, it is Java server faces. It is a framework. It is a framework that holds. It helps us to. It is a framework. It's like if we do have a lot of work, that means it's like a frame. I mean, it helps us to accomplish a certain work by using this kind of the framework. So it makes things easier. Then this kind of the framework, what's going to be helpful for it actually? It holds what you call MVC. MVC stands for this is what you call, trying to apply what you call design principles. So on model, we have model, can have model, view, and the controller. There's nothing else. These things what you do have from here. Under the model, that's where you have data. Under the model, that's where you have let us try to do like this way. Under the model, that's where we have something like that's where you have data. Also after that data, we need those kind of data to be saved to the database. It will have also its information. That means we need an abstract, a simplified way where we can have illustration of real world problem. Like if we have like a student should have like a name and so on. Those are the data we need to get, and then after grabbing those data, we need to save data to the database. Okay, now we need something that's going to help us to access database to be saved those data to the database. That means we come with what we call DAO. DAO, that means data accessor object. It helps us data access object. It helps us to access, the data are being shared. It helps us to save those data to the database, nothing else. So now under the view, what do we have under the view? Actually, under the view we do have that's nothing else except for the end user. We're dealing with the end user. That would mean we need what we call UI. What do you mean UI? It is user interface. We have the user interface, or it's the user interface. We can have it divided into two parts. What do you mean? We have what we call graphical user interface. Also, we have command line interface. So those are the different interface the user can interact with. This depends on the project or the things you're working on. So now, of course, under the view, we can have that way. You can have HTML and so on. So it's a front end work. So under the controller, that's where the big part it happens. The big part it takes place on this kind of the controller, nothing else. So under the controller, we just have make sure this, it plays a role where you'll be able to communicate. It's a bridge, that bridge between view and model, whereby when they use a certain browser by using what you call HTTP transfer, I mean like request, when they request some data, it's going to pass through the controller, and the controller is going to know exactly what to build, what the view to render to the end user. Do I need some data comes from database that can be rendered automatically to the end user? Like if we need to list some data comes from database, is going to first go to fetch data from database. After fetching data, is going to be retrieved, and then the controller will know exactly where to display those kind of the data through by help of the view, nothing else. So that's how it communicates. So the controller, it picks it helps us do what you call validations. It helps us to communicate, to make those kind of validation, I mean bridged between the view and model. It helps us to save that database. It helps us to receive what you call HTTP request. It helps us to receive what you call HTTP requests. It helps us for HTTP requests, and HTTP response is the one responsible to know exactly what to render and what to deny, depends on the exact status code and so on. But before we move on, there's something you need to know. Of course, you can have some illustration of this guy. I mean, this information you do have from here. I want to show something from here. If we have some end users using a web browser, it's going to use what you call HTTP request. It's going to request some data, and those kind of data is going to come to the controller. The controller is called what calls faces servlet. I'm going to let you know what it means, servlet and so on. So, and then when we say like this way, the next step is going to build a certain view, depends on what the user is requesting. Sometimes when we have the view, a certain face, I mean the view, like it's going to need some data comes from database. That means if we're going to list the students, it's going to come first, go to the bin, I mean to the model. We are going to have what you call manage the bin from here for JSF. So they're going to be able to communicate with the model where we have saved the data and so on by the help of getters and setters. It's going to set this data, and then retrieve data comes from the when retrieve data, it's going to go to the face rate to the controller, and controller is going to to validate, do something else, and then be back on the view after the view, and then it's going to come as response. It's going to restore the view according to the model, and the view is going to come to the controller, and the controller is just there to know exactly to give the response or to use what you call the Ajax method again to request a certain data and anything endlessly. You can go and understand this kind of the model, so that these different service and then process that can happen behind the scene for the control view and the model. So what do we mean servlet? What do we mean servlet? It's nothing else like in Java. It is a simple Java program that are responsible for HTTP request and response, nothing else. And response. That means it is just there to responsible for a certain request that being requested, and then to govern or to know what to respond to the end user, nothing else. That's what you call the servlet. Okay, so now without taking much time, I will just like to go back and then try to use what called JSP. For the JSP, it use on its front end, use what called, you can use the JSF. It can use the JSP, or it can use what called executable hypertext markup language, that is what called XHTML, nothing else. So I would like for you to let us open our IDE, Integrated Development Environment. For us, we're going to use NetBean from here, whereby under NetBean you can come here. Just need to make sure you're working on this one. Just come here, click on File. We're going to start with just there's something you need first. You just need certain IDE. You also need a certain web server that's going to help you to host, like Tomcat, Glassfish, and so on. So you just need to come here. I'm going to start with just know exactly the introduction part of them, how we interact, how start the server, and so on. Move on. So now we come here under the project. You can come here to create a new project, and then you can call it. You can say, maybe for me I have Java Web, Java EE, that means enterprise edition, we have HTML and so on. Those are things that can be helpful from here. So what do we mean for Java Web? It is possible that you don't have this kind of Java Web. You just need to come here, you go to the NetBean, you can come here, you do installation of the plugins. You can go here, go to the installation of the plugins. Of course, this one, this kind of it require you to have what you call default GDK 8 version, this one to work. That means you just request to come here, just find out the Java. You can find the category from here where you have Java web 1. Like for me, I have installed this one. It's going to be like Java web. It's going to be Java web. It's found this kind of the category. Like you have JSF, we have different prime faces, we have different things that are bound under Java web. You can go ahead and then you do installation of all of them together and then you move on. Okay, great. If you do have some errors, you can just try to debug for the window, and Linux has some way where you can just configure exactly the GDK to be the default one. Okay, I will just show some video on it so that's going to be helpful to you. So now if you're good, of course you just need to know exactly where you just located your GDK. I can help you. You can come here, you can go here, and exactly where you have installed your NetBean. Like if you're using Windows, you just go to local disk C. If you just install the next by next and so on, go to local disk C, program files. After program files, you go to the NetBean. Under the NetBean, I'm going to find out this kind of the folder called etc. When you just go to the it's going to find out netbean.conf. Okay, just right click on it, that one. You go to the you edit the text for it. You just edit the text. What you are going to do now, you're just going to come down here. We're going to specify the NetBean GDK home. NetBean GDK home. You need to specify exactly the GDK home you're just using. Okay, for mine just being located under this one. Just come here for user using Windows. Just go to local disk C, you go to the program files, you go to the Java. Exactly, you're going to find out the GDK version 1.8.11 something else. Just click on that one, then you copy the path, and then you come here, you paste there, then you save, you're done. Well, then you go ahead, you restart your NetBean, you continue moving ahead. So now, enough talking about that one. Let us now go here. Let us create a new project. And then you go to the Java, you go to the Java web application, click next. And then request to write certain name, let us call it student. We're going to say student registration app. We're going to have a student registration app, for example. The first one I'm going to work on, so that's going to help us to learn what's going on. So click next, and then we're going to request to have a certain server that are learning. Okay, so I'm going just to remove this one. You can see I do have this kind of the Apache, but by default is not there. You can go ahead, let me try. You can go ahead and then try to configure it, or you can go ahead, you choose. You can go add the Grassfish server, and click next, and then it can be downloaded automatically. After being downloaded, just come here, just click on this one, then it can download this one. After being downloaded, it can be useful. Okay, that means it's going to require you to have an internet so that can be downloaded automatically. But for me, I'm going to continue using Tomcat. Why am I choosing the Tomcat version? Because this one can be installed and so on. Why do we need, why do I choose Tomcat over the Grassfish? This Grassfish has been implemented over the Tomcat, of course. The Grassfish, it has paid version and the free version, but the Tomcat is a free at all, and then the simplest one to use. It's being found wherever you're just watching your software. That means it's a good thing to start off and then work on that one. So now if you go and then choose the Apache, going to the next, I'm going to request you to have what you call the server location. Just go ahead and choose exactly the location where you have your Tomcat. If you're using NetBean 8, just you're going to request, and then you have Tomcat like version 10 is not supported right now. You can go degrade them to be 8 or 9. It's going to work actually. And then request to go to the browser. You just go where you have exactly your Apache Tomcat, where it's being saved, nothing else. and then you just implement it. I can say I've patched Tomcat 9 version. Can go ahead after found out this kind of the parent that hold this kind of bin configuration, so on, just go ahead and open. After open, this one is going to be automatically happen there, but before they're saying that I don't have this kind of the version because I have just already configured it. I can go ahead, you can put forward slash, so that's going to be able to pick up, otherwise you can move on. Okay, for me I have just configured this one Apache. That means can go ahead and create some user. Of course, you request to start and create user because we're going to request you to enter the user and password. Okay, then after that click finish and then move on. Okay, so now for me I have Apache Tomcat, and then I'm going to click next, and then I need to come here, just need to come choose Java Surface because this is the one we want to use right now. Okay, then after this one, then click finish. The project is going to be created automatically. This is what we call the configuration and do nothing else. This is the first part we're going to work on, and then the next part is going to be all about now we go and then try to do hands on hand and try to implement some of the things, guys. So now if we try to expand, you can see if we have this kind of web pages, source package, and so on. If we try to expand the web page, that way we found what called view. Our view is found on the web pages. You can see we have this kind of the index.html. This is the default web page do we have. Under the web information, that's where you can find the web.xml. It holds all the information you need to run this kind of the program, and then you can see it can have session timeout, 30 seconds, and so on. It has everything's found. The welcome page is found the faces.index, but everything we're just hosting will be under the folder called faces, because this kind of the faces, that's what we call under the view, nothing else. Okay, nothing else. Let us back to our index.html. Let us run. Let us say this thing saying hello from first rate. We can say hello, welcome to webtech session. Okay, session. Now if we try to run, let's click on this one, then you just try run the file. What's going to happen? You're going to request me this one. You can go ahead, you just configure your own, and then you move on. The master password is just going there by default, and then it's going to try to run this kind of the file, and then to be executed. You have to make sure the Tomcat is not running, because if running is going to cause some errors. You have first to shut down your file so that it can be able to be deployed automatically. Can you see just waiting for the Tomcat to be restarted? After being restarted, now you can go ahead and then try to do something else. To access this kind of the website, nothing else. Of course, if you're executing this kind of file, they are going to give you a URL that means it is a uniform resource locator that's going to locate this kind of the file where it's going to be located automatically. You can see they're going to request me to put the password, the exact password, just put there, then hit OK. Then it's going to be accessed automatically if you do have some access, and then after that we move on. You can see it has been built successful. I can access my website by using this kind of the link, or it's going to be open automatically, or by using your web browser automatically it's going to be open here. So you can see it has been opened automatically by within NetBean. You can see just saying hello, welcome to the webtech session. This is the thing, there's the introduction part we do have from here. So we're going to come whereby now we're going to, that's how this program has been deployed, nothing else. I hope you just grab the general behind what you mean. The JSF, Java Surface is a framework that we're working on, that are going to be implementation from here. So we have this kind of the URL and so on. This is the theory behind what's going to happen, what's going on behind the scene. So I would like to see you in the next part. Thank you.